welcome to Rob Brown Red, a little YouTube exclusive here with one of the big stories of the week. I'm joined by Tom Morris, chief football reporter for Nine News over in Melbourne. Tom is looking very fresh because it's Sunday morning where he is. I am looking as weathered as I always am because it's 3 minutes past midnight on a Sunday. Tom, how are you doing first and foremost?
Nathan, it's good to be with you. I'm going well. I appreciate that you're jumping on at midnight your time, and it's 9 a.m. here on a Sunday. And you said chief football reporter, and I'm not sure many of your listeners or viewers might not know that's actually not your football. That's our football. That's Australian rules football. So I predominantly work on that. So what we call soccer is very much a periphery sport here. I do enjoy it and I like it. But for the purpose of this podcast and broadcast, we can talk about that as football.
So the very simple and straightforward question is, are Wrexham coming to Australia this summer?
Yeah, almost certainly. The final details are being ticked off as we speak. Wrexham is a club that's very popular in Australia. In fact, aside from outside the US and the UK, more people have viewed Welcome to Wrexham in Australia than anywhere else in the world. So uh, it's no surprise that that Visit Victoria, which is I live in Victoria, and Visit Victoria, I guess, is the tourism company, the government-funded tourism company that looks to bring big events out here. They bring the NFL game out here later next year, concerts, whatever else. They look to just add to that catalogue of various sports, and there's an amazing sporting complex here. And negotiations now well down the line that would bring Wrexham out here to play a game against Melbourne Victory in early to mid-July, which is exciting for all of us here and hopefully exciting for Wrexham as well because we're a city and a country that loves welcoming various sporting organisations.
So Wrexham, when they've ever had promotions, and they're on course now for a third straight promotion, the players have celebrated in Las Vegas. The preseason tours have been in North Carolina, in Los Angeles, in Philadelphia, in Vancouver. North America has been a huge focus. So this would be a huge step in a different direction to go over to Australia, a completely different area of the world, to try and grow the brand. How long has this been in the works? What's your understanding in how long this has taken to reach the point where you're at right now?
Yeah, several months been in the works. My understanding of the situation is, Marvel Stadium, where the game is slated to be played, is a roofed stadium, so it's a retractable roof. You can play outdoors and indoors, but invariably our football, Australian football, and cricket is played indoors underneath the roof. Um, the complicating factor here is the game is due to be played in the middle of our Australian rules football season, um, which means that the Wrexham versus Melbourne Victory match would need to fit around that. And there's different parameters around sponsorship, signage, grass length, the way clearly the way the ground is set up. But now it's very much in the stage of okay, let's pick a final date. It looks like Wrexham would come out here for a week. They'll do lots of other, I guess, promotional activities while they're out here. So we have had football clubs out here in the past, Liverpool and Real Madrid and Manchester United. There's been lots of football clubs that have come out here over the last 20 years since I've been following it. But often they only come out for 2 or 3 days. They play and then they go home, or they play a couple of games and they go away. It seems like Wrexham will be out here for about a week, so it'll be a great, fantastic promotional opportunity for the club, given the supporter base here is so strong. And I've got to say, this is not a criticism. The supporter base is so strong, by and large, because of the amazing documentary that's been made and the series that's been out there. I wouldn't have known about Wrexham without watching that. And I know my wife absolutely is obsessed with that documentary, probably more than she is with the sport itself, which speaks to just speaks to how well it was done and how attractive it is for any sort of latent sports fans to sit and watch and then feel like they can grow an affinity with a club that they otherwise didn't know beforehand.
Obviously, a huge voyage, an odyssey to get from the UK over to Australia. The flight itself is basically you bookmark a day and then a day to get back. And previously with the tours, especially the first tour, they got the travel wrong in terms of maybe coming back too late. It impacted the season preparation. Do you think it's just a one game experience, or do you think that they could look to play elsewhere in Australia? Because typically on these tours they played 2, 3, 4 games, and it just seems curious if it is just against Melbourne Victory.
Yeah, I'm unsure of that. That would make sense to play another game or two. This is slated as my because my understanding is that sometimes teams, and you would definitely know better than me, they come out and they play a postseason tour and then they go on holidays or have a break. But this would be a pre-season tour, so in preparation for the upcoming season, hopefully in the championship, as you said, looking to get promoted. But I'm not sure whether they'll play other games. No, I don't know that. All I know is that Melbourne Victory is very excited. Football fans here are very excited, and they'd be, I mean, 50,000 people Marvel Stadium holds, so it's a big stadium. It's not as big as the MCG, but when it's packed, it's loud, it's noisy, and hopefully they're able to play. The idea is they play on a Saturday night. So whether that's Saturday, it's more likely to be, I think, Saturday the 12th of July than Saturday the 5th of July. But those dates haven't been fully locked in yet.
I guess one of the questions is from people that don't follow Australian soccer, Australian football, is what sort of standard are Melbourne Victory? What sort of standard is the game in Australia? Do you think you say, I remember Tottenham went over last season. There was the
Yeah.
Ange link. There's lots of Premier League teams who've gone over, but we're just not sure how Wrexham would compare.
That's such a good question, and that's what a lot of people are wondering themselves. And I've often thought with the A League, which is our competition here, which has been around since about 2005, and have produced lots of good players, and lots of great players have finished their careers playing A League as well. But how does it compare? I think the A League would like to think of themselves as the best teams would be competitive championship teams. I think the worst teams would probably be League One teams, but it's very hard to know, which is why this would be an interesting acid test. The A League has gone through a period of transition as well. It's probably not as strong as it once was. The TV rights have become fragmented. It's probably not as popular as it once was, but it's still a great breeding ground for young Australian football players. And Melbourne Victory is a hugely popular club. Along Sydney FC and Melbourne Victory are the two most watched clubs. Melbourne Victory has won many titles over the years. Ange Postecoglou actually was the manager of Melbourne Victory before he went over to Japan, I think it was, and then of course he went to Tottenham after that, and the Socceroos was in there as well. Tim Cahill played for Melbourne Victory. There's been lots of great players that have worn the strip, and that would mean there'd be a big crowd regardless. But in terms of the standard, hard to say. I would imagine it's relatively similar, but we won't know until they play.
This is a very good question I mean, a lot of people are very much looking forward to it. I know my parents were at one of the recent games and all the chatter behind them was, do you think you'll go to Australia? Have you got funds to go to Australia? So there's a lot of people are very excited. I guess before we get onto Rob and Ryan and kind of the impact they could have on this whole thing, one of the criticisms when we went to Vancouver and myself and Rich, who did the podcast, were over there, was that ticket prices were very, very high. So it made it difficult for families to go as a group because the tickets were extortionately priced. And we were fortunate enough to be there. I understand that. Do you think there will be an effort to get Marvel Stadium as full as possible for families
Absolutely.
or for people that know the club through the documentary?
Yeah, absolutely. This will be, I mean, Visit Victoria, as I said, is the organisation that puts on these events. They want to make it as accessible as they can to as many different people. So I wouldn't imagine ticket prices will be an issue at all. And in fairness, in Australian sport, ticket prices are pretty reasonable. In my experience, overseas versus Australian sport, certainly in America versus Australian sport, the taking your family or taking your friends to big sporting events here is far more affordable than what it is. The fact there's a 50,000 seat stadium means there'll be a demand for tickets, but it's not like you're going to miss out if you want to get there. You'll be able to get to the game. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. And they will be wanting a spectacle. And part of having a spectacle is having a stadium that's as full as possible.
Well, Deadpool at the Marvel Stadium seems to already sell itself on the posters, I'm sure. Rob and Ryan, then, that they have enormous reach, particularly Ryan, but both of them. They're very, very humorous, very, very funny. All the sponsorships companies cannot wait to work with them. If you're Visit Victoria, how excited would you be for their involvement in promoting this? Because they always get involved.
Yeah, massively. I think the hope is that at least one of them would come out, maybe two, but they're certainly hopeful that one of Rob or Ryan would come out for the game and maybe for the week. Visit Victoria, as I said, it has a wide scope. They bring Taylor Swift out. they bring the NFL out, they bring other various sporting events out. And, sport is, to give you an idea for people who haven't been to Melbourne, which is probably many of your listeners, sport is really the heartbeat of the town. There's a sporting complex where you have the Australian Open tennis next to the MCG, which has the Boxing Day cricket test, which has big football events, as in Australian football events. And then, the rhythm of the city really beats around what sporting events are on at any given time. So you have the football and the cricket seasons, but then in amongst that, you have scattered events like this, which bring people to watch. And that's why it's so exciting. I mean, some of the great Australian football, as in soccer, memories have been in Melbourne. Like there's been some heartbreak across the years, but also some great events as well. I remember going to a game at the MCG when I would have been about 10 and Manchester United was playing against the Socceroos. I remember Lionel Messi playing for Argentina against the Socceroos in a friendly out here as well. So the city really does come alive when sport gets here. And hopefully that's something Rob and or Ryan would like to be a part of.
And now you get to watch Ollie Rathbone or Sam Smith against Melbourne Victory. So the finest footballers that have ever graced Australian soil, I'm sure. I guess the final question would be that, like I say, lots of excitement. We'll wait with bated breath to see your announcement of or the club's announcements of whenever this match is in July. But if people were coming for the week to Melbourne, what could they do? There's obviously loads of things to do in Melbourne, but what would be some of your recommendations if people came over?
Well, if you're coming out here and you obviously are coming here to watch the Wrexham versus Melbourne Victory game, I would implore you to also get to the MCG to watch an AFL match. The best comparison I have to that, for those who haven't seen it, is it's probably similar to a Gaelic football atmosphere, what you'd get in Ireland. It's a hugely popular sport. There's a 100,000 seat stadium called the MCG that fills out regularly with fans. And it's a shame it's only an Australian sport, really. But get to the MCG to watch that. There's amazing wineries. There's great art galleries. The city is buzzing with amazing restaurants. We're well known for our Asian cuisines and wines. And if you like coffee, I'm not a coffee drinker myself, but the coffee in Melbourne is famous as well. So there's no shortage of things to do. And then if you're here for a week and you want to get up to Sydney, it's only an hour flight, and going to Sydney is an amazing place. Adelaide is a beautiful place as well. It is in the middle of winter, so I'm not sure how cold it gets where you are in the middle of winter, but for us it's about 10 degrees. So it's not as cold as what I would imagine it would be in the UK.
I mean, 10 degrees is warm for us, so we will probably feel nice and toasty because it's very cold over in winter. What I will say is, I've learned a lot there about really nailing down when this could be, and super, super exciting that we could dip our toe in the water. There's a new season of the documentary is going to be out imminently following the end of the season, so that would be out before Wrexham headed over to. That will be out definitely before probably late May, early June, maybe something like that. It's a lot quicker turnaround right now, so that'll be really exciting. That'll only amp up the excitement level. So what I'll do is I'll put Tom's links in the description, because he is finger on the pulse with Visit Victoria and we are eagerly following it. So Tom, thanks so much, and hopefully we can maybe do this again when we're over in Melbourne and not in the icy cold UK.
Yeah. So would you come out yourself?
Yes, that's the plan. Myself and Rich, if we can, we're looking into it. Can we pull all our podcasting pennies together? That is the question too. So hopefully a lot of people watch this on YouTube and we can get there, but we'll see.
Absolutely. When you get out here, what you should do, and you're the podcasting genius, but get out here and do a live show. Do a live show in a pub or a bar, bring all the Wrexham people together. And if you do that, I'm more than happy to be part of it. It'll be great to meet in person. You're doing a great job and it's so exciting as well.
See, well, fingers crossed. Tom's link's in the description. He will be finger on the pulse for whenever this date is. You've kind of had a little tip there of when it could be in July. So get saving and get following.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Bay.